2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. All right. Thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
All right, it's 4 o'clock in the UK. It's 11 a.m. on the East Coast in the States. My timing for my recordings is getting slightly better. So I've now managed to have 15 seconds rather than a minute and a half of station announcements. So it's getting better, slowly but surely. My routines are getting sorted out. I've done a bit of cleaning this afternoon. I've got a limited amount of time at the weekend, but I managed to get most of the things I need to do done, including a bit of research for the radio show this afternoon. So I've got a couple of videos I want to dip into. I've been following the Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell cases. It's Ghislaine Maxwell who's the main focus of everything now. But that particular case of abusing teenage girls leads into a lot of different areas. It leads into Jewish business and Jewish mafia and Israeli intelligence potentially, and British intelligence potentially, and honestly the Maxwell family's got their finger in a lot of pies, and I'm not really the man who's to talk about that in detail, but there's a guy called Ryan Dawson who's very clear about speaking about those sorts of things in detail. So I want to play a little bit of an interview that Ryan Dawson did with Sean Atwood on the True Crimes podcast that I've been listening to this afternoon. I'm going to start it about 7 minutes in. Let me just share my screen so we'll make sure this is happening. Okay, I think that's probably happening. Can't tell. Yeah, it's definitely happening. So let's just do that. So this is Ryan Dawson and Sean Atwood. It's on YouTube. The title of the video is "I Researched Epstein for 13 Years." Ryan Dawson Part 2. It's an hour and 40 minutes long, so I'm only going to play a short clip starting about 7 minutes in. I'll play about 10 minutes of it. You'll get the idea of where the connections go, how to follow the research. I'm still going to be doing research on this because I keep listening to things over and over again to try and get everything in my head, but I'm going to have to sit down and write everything down, I think, to be able to remember the connections and be able to remember the names and the intelligence network projects and all that sort of stuff. I can't retain that sort of stuff in my head, so I need to have it written down. So I'm relying on videos at the moment to get that, some of it in my head, and some of it I'll put on the mind map. So this is Ryan Dawson and Sean Atwood. I'm looking right there. What I'm going to do now is go to Wikipedia and just read whatever the entry is on Wikipedia for the mega group. So 2 seconds to get to the right place. Mega group in there. Obviously, this is edited by many different people, so it's they normally don't put anything in there that's not verified. Well, in theory, but they can potentially put all sorts of things could be in here. So let me see what we've got. I put Wexner in there as well. Right, there's no entries for Mega Group Wexner, but it does bring up Les Wexner, Charles Bronfman, Ray Dalio, Stan Kroenke. That's just because it's got the word mega in. So let's just go with the first two. Les Wexner was mentioned. Charles Bronfman is a member of the mega group. So let's read what it says about Charles Bronfman. So Charles Bronfman, born June 27th, 1931, is a Canadian-American businessman and philanthropist, and is a member of the Canadian Jewish Bronfman family. It's Bronfman, with an estimated net worth of $2 billion. Presumably that's Canadian dollars. Bronfman was ranked by Forbes as the 14th wealthiest Canadian and 736th in the world. It doesn't say what year, but okay, so Bronfman was born into a Jewish family in Montreal. He's the son of Samuel Bronfman and Sadie Rosner Bronfman. He has two older sisters, the art patron Baroness Aileen Minder Bronfman de Gunsberg, and architecture expert and developer Phyllis Lambert. His older brother Edgar Bronfman Sr. was a fellow co-chair of Seagram. Edgar Bronfman Jr. is Edgar's son. He was educated at Selwyn House School in Montreal, Trinity College School in Port Hope, Ontario, and McGill University. Bronfman said he is Canadian in his heart, but wanted to get dual citizenship to vote in the United States. Bronfman, this is Charles Bronfman still. Business career. Bronfman held various positions in the family's liquor empire Seagram from 1951 to 2000. In 1951, Bronfman's father, Samuel Bronfman, gave Charles a 33% ownership stake in Kemp Investments, that's CEMP, Kemp or Semp, a holding company for him and his three siblings, which controls the family's corporate empire. Under the leadership of Charles and brother Edgar, it controlled billions of dollars in liquor, real estate, oil and gas, and chemical companies. Seagram used to sponsor the Grand National in the UK. So Bronfman and his brother Edgar inherited the Seagram Spirits Empire in 1971 after the death of their father, Sam Bronfman. Bronfman is a former co-chairman of the Seagram Company Limited. On the demise of the company, he said, "It was a disaster. It is a disaster. It will be a disaster. It was a family tragedy." Bronfman was also well known for his forays into professional sport. He was majority owner of the Montreal Expos franchise in Major League Baseball from the team's formation in 1968 until 1990. In 1982, a day after the Montreal Alouettes of the Canadian Football League's collapse due to financial troubles, Bronfman bought their remains and used them to start a new franchise, the Montreal Concords. This venture proved far less successful. Despite later rebranding the team as the Alouettes, the team folded prior to the start of the 1987 Canadian Football League season. So that's the business side of things. There's a little bit more of that. In April 2013, Bronfman was one of 100 prominent American Jews who sent a letter to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urging him to work closely with Secretary of State John Kerry to devise pragmatic initiatives consistent with Israel's security needs, which would represent Israel's readiness to make painful territorial sacrifices for the sake of peace. The next title on here is Philanthropy. And we're still talking about Charles Bronfman. He and Michael Steinhardt co-founded Taglit Birthright, a program which provides a free educational travel experience to Israel for young Jewish adults. Bronfman is one of its principal donors. Since 1999, the program has sent more than 700,000 young Jews from around the world on a 10-day free trip to Israel. In 1991, Bronfman formed with billionaire Leslie Wexner the Mega Group, a loosely organized club of some of the wealthiest and most influential businessmen who were concerned with Jewish issues. Max Fisher, Michael Steinhardt, Leonard Abramson, Edgar Bronfman Sr., and Lawrence Tisch were some of the members. The Mega Group would meet twice a year for 2 days of seminars related to the topic of philanthropy and Jewishness. In 1998, Steven Spielberg spoke about his personal religious journey, and later the group discussed Jewish summer camps. The Mega Group went there's the police activity outside. I don't know whether you can hear that, but there's sirens going off all over the place. It's almost always the case when I'm doing a live radio show. Okay, so the Mega Group went on to inspire a number of philanthropic initiatives such as the Partnership for Excellence in Jewish Education, Birthright Israel, and the upgrading of National Hillel. Bronfman is chairman of the Andrea and Charles Bronfman Philanthropies Inc., a family of charitable foundations operating in Israel, the US, and Canada. Since its foundation in 1986, the charity spent more than $340 million to about 1,820 organizations. In 2016, Bronfman closed the charity, which was planned over years. Bronfman was also responsible for the Charles Bronfman Prize, honoring individuals for their humanitarian contributions. The first winner was Gift of Life Marrow Registry, founder J. Feinberg. He also founded the CRB Foundation, which runs educational enrichment classes in outlying areas in collaboration with Education Ministry in Israel. Bronfman was a founding co-chairman of Historica Canada, producers of Heritage Minutes series of television shorts. It was an early meeting of the foundation, originally the CAB Foundation, that he asked the members if television can use 30 seconds or 60 seconds to persuade people that Cadillacs or cornflakes are interesting, couldn't we use that short piece of time to persuade Canadians that their history is interesting? You tell me how to do it and I'll fund it. End of quote. It was out of that discussion that the Heritage Minutes was conceived, piloted, distributed through cinemas and broadcasters across the country, and then confirmed as a major contribution of the foundation, which after a few years later became Historica, recently merged with Dominican Institute. Here we go. Bronfman joined the Giving Pledge an initiate of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I want to know what the giving pledge is, but I'm not going to do that today. Let's see where else we can go with this. I'm just following links, basically. It's free association via links on Wikipedia. So I'm relying on other people to have done the research, but that's fine, because I've only got a couple of days to actually research anything. So let's have a look at a giving pledge. So Wikipedia says a giving pledge is a campaign to encourage extremely wealthy people to contribute a majority of their wealth to philanthropic causes. As of May 2019, the pledge had 204 signatories, either individuals or couples from 22 countries, though some of the signers have died since signing. Most of the signatories of the pledge are billionaires, and their pledges total $1.2 trillion. So this has come from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This is Wikipedia. The organization's stated goal is to inspire the wealthy people of the world to give at least half of their net worth to philanthropy, either during their lifetime or upon their death. The pledge is a public gesture of an intention to give, not a legal contract. On the Giving Pledge's website, each individual or couple writes a letter explaining why they chose to give. So some of the history. In June 2010, the Giving Pledge campaign was formally announced, and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett began recruiting members. As of August 2010, the aggregate wealth of the first 40 pledges was $125 billion. As of April 2011, 69 billionaires had joined the campaign and given a pledge, and by the following year, the Huffington Post reported that a total of 81 billionaires had pledged. By May 2017, 158 individuals and/or couples were listed as pledges. Not all pledges are billionaires. Okay, so that's more or less it on there. Let me see if there's a link to the website. Here we go. There's a website link with some profiles on it. And some references. Okay, that's fine. So that's my basic methodology for my research, is watch a bit of a YouTube video and then read a bit of Wikipedia. That's how I do it. So it's not very sophisticated, but it's functional. And all you really need to be is functional, particularly on a Saturday afternoon. And it gives me something to research. So the videos, Ryan Dawson's always got names and dates and organizations. Oh, I'll tell you something else. I was going to read something about this, the Sahara Club as well. So let's find the Sahara Club connections as well. Okay, that's not the right one. So where's the link to the Sahara Club gone? What was I looking up when I found Sahara Club? Right, so it's giving me links, but not to the place I want to go. Alright, let's try a friendly neighborhood mega search engine. Let's just put Sahara Club into there. So what I was looking for was the Sahara Club is a group of intelligence agencies in the 70s that were doing operations in Africa, but there's nothing comes up for some reason about so. It's giving me lots of links to pubs in Lewisham, which is not what I wanted. Sahara Club, CIA. Try that. Safari Club, that's why. That's why it's a Safari Club. So I was close, but no cigar. Right, I'm going to read this. This is why I need to have everything written down, because I can't remember. To save me life, the details go out of my head completely as soon as I've not got it in front of me. But the Safari Club is an interesting collection of things in one place. So I'm going to read some of this from Wikipedia. The Safari Club was a covert alliance of intelligence services formed in 1976 that ran clandestine operations around Africa at a time when the United States Congress had limited the power of the CIA after years of abuses, and when Portugal was withdrawing from Africa. Its former members were the pre-revolution Iran, Pahlavi dynasty, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and France. So right away, it's Northern Africa. The group maintained informal connections with the United States, South Africa, Rhodesia, and Israel. The group executed a successful military intervention in Zaire in response to an invasion from Angola. It also provided arms to Somalia in its 1977-78 conflict with Ethiopia. It organized secret diplomacy relating to anti-communism in Africa and has been credited with initiating the process resulting in the 1979 Egypt-Israel peace treaty. Well, I remember that peace treaty and Camp David negotiations and all that. That was Jimmy Carter's era. I wasn't that old. I was probably 14 at the time. 14 in 1979 anyway. So probably 13 when the negotiations were being talked about. But I remember the process, and I was quite impressed with the peace process, but I was 13, so I didn't know any different. So this is a little bit more from Wikipedia. The organization of the Safari Club. Alexander de Maranches initiated the pact with messages to 4 other countries and to newly independent Algeria, which declined to participate. The original charter was signed in 1976 by leaders and intelligence directors from the 5 countries. So from France, Alexander de Maranches, Director of Service Documentation, I can't say that. It's counter-espionage, basically. Saudi Arabia, the guy who signed was Kamal Adham, Director of Intelligence, Mukhabarat Al-Amma. I'm sure I butchered these names. From Egypt, General Kamal Hassan Ali, Director of the Intelligence, Mukharabat. And from Morocco, General Ahmed Dlimi, D-L-I-M-I, Director of Intelligence and Commander of the Royal Moroccan Army. And from Iran, this is pre-revolution, remember, so the Shah's in charge, General Nematollah Nasiri of Sarak, which is Iranian intelligence. The charter begins that recent events in Angola and other parts of Africa have demonstrated the continent's role as a theatre for revolutionary wars, prompted and conducted by the Soviet Union, which utilizes individuals or organizations sympathetic to or controlled by Marxist ideology. The group's purpose was therefore to oppose Soviet influence by supporting anti-communists. The charter also says that the group intends to be global in conception. Its formation has been attributed to interlocking interests of the countries involved, which were already cooperating to some degree, alongside ideological pursuit of global anti-communism. These included the more concrete goals of military strategy and economic interests. Examples include international mining operations and investments in apartheid South Africa, in the Transvaal Development Company. All right, so infrastructure. It says Safari Club takes its name, reportedly de Marenche's idea, after the exclusive resort in Kenya where the group first met in 1976. The club was operated by Saudi arms dealer Adnan Khashoggi, also a friend of Adham's. Adham was one of the guys who signed the where's he at? I've seen his name somewhere. I can't remember where it is now. Did he sign something? Kamal Adham, the Saudi Arabian Director of Intelligence. There we go. He was in there somewhere. Okay, so the original charter establishes that an operations centre would be built by 1st of September 1976 in Cairo. The group made its headquarters there, and its organisation included a secretariat, a planning wing, and operations wing. Meetings were also held in Saudi Arabia and in Egypt. The group made large purchases of real estate and secure communications equipment. The creation of the Safari Club coincided with the consolidation of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. The BCCI served to launder money, particularly for Saudi Arabia and the United States, whose CIA director in 1976, George H.W. Bush, had a personal account. This is a quote. The Safari Club needed a network of banks to finance its intelligence operations. With the official blessing of George Bush as head of the CIA, Adham transformed a small Pakistani merchant bank, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, into a worldwide money laundering machine, buying banks around the world in order to create the biggest clandestine money network in history. BCCI also served as an intelligence gathering mechanism by virtue of its extensive contacts with underground organizations worldwide. And another quote, they contrived with Bush and other intelligence service heads a plan that seemed too good to be true. The bank would solicit the business of every major terrorist, rebel, and underground organization in the world. The invaluable intelligence thus gained would be discreetly distributed to friends of the BCCI. And the next section is United States involvement. So the United States was not a formal member of the group, but was involved to some degree, particularly through its Central Intelligence Agency. Henry Kissinger is credited with the American strategy of supporting the Safari Club implicitly, allowing it to fulfill American objectives by proxy without risk of direct responsibility. His function became particularly important after the US Congress passed the War Powers Resolution in 1973 and the Clark Amendment in 1976. I have no idea what either of those things are because I'm not in that particular country, but I might read the links on Wikipedia at a later date. So I'm going to skip down a little bit. An important factor in the nature of US involvement concerned changing domestic perceptions of the CIA and government secrecy. The Rockefeller Commission and the Church Committee had recently launched investigations that revealed decades of illegal operations by the CIA and the FBI. The Watergate scandal directed media attention at these secret operations, served as a proximate cause for these ongoing investigations. Jimmy Carter discussed public concerns over secrecy in his campaign, and when he took office in January 1977, he attempted to rein in the scope of covert CIA operations. In a 2002 speech at Georgetown University, Prince Turki of the Saudi Arabian Intelligence Service described the situation like so, and this is a quote: "In 1976, after the Watergate matters took place here, your intelligence community was literally tied up by Congress. It could not do anything. It could not send spies, it could not write reports, it could not pay money. In order to compensate for that, a group of countries got together in the hope of fighting communism and established what was called the Safari Club. The Safari Club included France, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and Iran. The principal aim of this club was that we would share information with each other and help each other in countering Soviet influence worldwide, and especially in Africa." As the Safari Club was beginning operations, former CIA Director Richard Helms and Agent Theodore Ted Shackley were under scrutiny from Congress and feared that new covert operations could be quickly exposed. Peter Dale Scott had classified the Safari Club as part of the second CIA, an extension of the organization's reach, maintained by an autonomous group of key agents. Thus, even as Carter's new CIA Director, Stansfield Turner, attempted to limit the scope of the agency's operations, Shackley, his deputy Thomas Clines, and agent Edwin P. Wilson secretly maintained the connections with the Safari Club and the BCCI. Now, Bank of Credit and Commerce International, I remember the collapse of that, so let's maybe go there, because that ties into everything. It's money laundering, basically. Small bank becomes a large bank, courtesy of money laundering and terrorism and drugs operations. So here we go from Wikipedia. This is the entry on the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. Tell you what, let's stop for a second and I'll get a drink. I'll just have a look in the chat room and see who's in the chat room. Right, so in the Revolution Radio chat room, we've got Dirt Engineer, Greenheart, May Street, Cat Dog Girl, Scorpio, Zippy, and Jimmy G, and Hummingbird, and Rockstar. So it's active, and you're welcome to come along and join in the conversation at revolution.radio or freedomslips.com. I prefer freedomslips.com, but freedomslips.com is the official version, I think. Okay, I do need a drink though, so let me just do that. Just a reminder, Revolution Radio is listener supported. It's entirely listener supported. So if you can make a donation, you can do that at the same place as the chat room is at, which is revolution.radio. And there's a Patreon button in 3 different places on the page. If you click on the Patreon button, if you can make a monthly donation, that'll help to keep the servers running. Nobody takes a salary from Revolution Radio. It's all run by volunteers, and they do a fine job. Okay, so my drink of choice today is Lucozade Wild Cherry, which is mostly glucose. So that should keep me going till the end of the show at least. Now back to the Wikipedia entry for the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. I'm tripping over my words, but we'll get there. So I'll just read a little bit of this because there'll be a lot of it. And I'm going to do some research between now and next week. Or maybe find a video that's about 10 minutes long that explains Bank of Credit and Commerce International, and a video that explains the Safari Club. So this is the entry from Wikipedia. The Bank of Credit and Commerce International, brackets BCCI, close bracket, was an international bank founded in 1972 by Aga Hassan Abedi, a Pakistani financier. The bank was registered in Luxembourg with head offices in Karachi and London. A decade after opening, BCCI had over 400 branches in 78 countries and assets in excess of 20 billion US dollars. So that's within, what did they say, 20 years? A decade, right? 10 years. That's remarkable. Making it the 7th largest private bank in the world. BCCI came under scrutiny of financial regulators and intelligence agencies in the 1980s due to concerns that it was poorly regulated. Subsequent investigations revealed that it was involved in massive money laundering and other financial crimes, and had illegally gained the controlling interest in a major American bank. BCCI became the focus of a massive regulatory battle in 1991, and on the 5th of July of that year, customs and bank regulators in 7 countries raided and locked down records of its branch offices. Investigators in the United States and the UK revealed that BCCI had been set up deliberately to avoid centralized regulatory review, and operated extensively in bank secrecy jurisdictions. Its affairs were extraordinarily complex. Its officers were sophisticated international bankers whose apparent objective was to keep their affairs secret, to commit fraud on a massive scale, and to avoid detection. The liquidators, Deloitte and Touche, filed a lawsuit against the bank's auditors, Pricewaterhouse and Ernst & Young, which was settled for $175 million in 1998. By 2013, Deloitte and Touche claimed to have recovered about 75% of the creditors' lost money. All right, so you get the idea. In 1990, so it was set up in 1972, and then by 1991 it was under investigation, and it collapsed basically under the investigation, the raids and everything. It was quite a big story in the UK. I'm not sure whether it was worldwide or not, but it was definitely a big story in the UK. By 1991 I'd moved to London. I remember the branch, at least one branch in the Charing Cross Road, I think, and one in the City of London that I remember seeing. Anyway, that's by the by. So that's Bank of Credit and Commerce International, which is money laundering on behalf of organised crime and the CIA and anybody else who might look like they have intelligence. But it's an intelligence gathering operation, is what they're saying. Which makes sense, because if you build it up and then you attract that type of custom, you're going to get information from watching the bank transactions that are going through the system. So it makes sense to do something like that. So I'm now wondering which bank replaced the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. I don't know that. But here's a suspicion. So Vatican Bank was also doing strange things at one point. I wonder if there's an entry for Vatican Bank. Right, the Institute for the Works of Religion is where I got redirected, so I'm going to read a little bit of that as well. So this is again from Wikipedia. I'll start using the Encyclopedia Britannica or something like that as well for my research, but at the moment it's Wikipedia. So this is the entry for the Institute for the Works of Religion. I'm not gonna say the Italian names because I'll butcher them. So the Institute for the Works of Religion, commonly known as the Vatican Bank, is a financial institution situated inside Vatican City and run by a board of superintendents, which reports to a commission of cardinals and the Pope. It is not a private bank, as there are no owners or shareholders, but it has been established in the form of a juridical canonical foundation, pursuant to its statutes. Since the 9th of July 2014, its president is Jean-Baptiste de François. The IOR, Institute for the Works of Religion, is regulated by the Vatican's financial supervisory body, IAF. The institute was founded by papal decree of Pope Pius XII in June 1942. In June 2012, the IOR gave a first presentation of its operations. In July 2013, the Institute launched its own website and also published on October the 1st, 2013, its first ever annual report. So on June 24th, 2013, Pope Francis created a special investigative pontifical commission to study IOR reform. On the 7th of April 2014, Pope Francis approved respective recommendations on the IOR's future, which were jointly developed by CRIOR and COSEA commissions, and the IOR's management. And this is a quote: "The IOR will continue to serve with prudence and provide specialized financial services to the Catholic Church worldwide." That's from the press release. So I know there's been some issues around Italian bankers committing suicide in London over the years. Well, at least one that I remember. Roberto Calvi, I think, was the name of the guy, who was found hanged under Blackfriars Bridge and allegedly suicide, but probably not. I don't know whether Roberto Calvi will be in here, but let's have a look. Oh, there is an entry for Roberto Calvi. Here we go. Roberto Calvi, born 13th of April 1920 and died 17th of June 1982, was an Italian banker dubbed God's Banker by the press because of his close association with the Holy See. He was a native of Milan and was chairman of Banco Ambrosiano, which collapsed in one of Italy's biggest political scandals. Calvi's death in London in June 1982 is a source of enduring controversy and was ruled a murder after 2 coroner's inquests and an independent investigation. 5 people were acquitted of murdering Calvi in Rome in June 2007. Popular speculation has linked Vatican Bank, the mafia, and clandestine propaganda due to his death. That's propaganda, and Jew is spelled D-U-E, just to be clear. I don't know what propaganda Jew is, but let's have a look and see what it is, because I'm just following links. It's free association. Here we go. This is the entry for propaganda Jew on Wikipedia. Propaganda Jew was a Masonic lodge under the Grand Orient of Italy. Is it P2? Is this P2? I'm wondering. Its Masonic charter was withdrawn in 1976, and it transformed into a clandestine pseudo-Masonic ultra-right organisation operating in contravention of Article 18 of the Constitution of Italy that banned secret associations. In this latter period, during which the lodge was headed by Licio Gelli, P2 was implicated in numerous Italian crimes and mysteries, including the collapse of the Vatican-affiliated Banco Ambrosiano, the murders of journalist Mino Percarelli and banker Roberto Calvi, and corruption cases within the nationwide bribe scandal Tangentopoli. I'm sure I mispronounced that, but never mind. P2 came to light through the investigations into the collapse of Michele Sindona's financial empire. P2 was sometimes referred to as a state within a state, or a shadow government. The lodge had among its members prominent journalists, members of parliament, industrialists and military leaders, including Silvio Berlusconi, who later became Prime Minister of Italy, the Savoy pretender to the Italian throne, Victor Emmanuel, and the heads of all three Italian intelligence services. At the time, SISDE is one of them, SISMI, and CESIS. So there's a long entry on P2, propaganda Jew. So founded in 1877 in Turin as Propaganda Masonica, this lodge was frequented by politicians and government officials across Italy, who were unable to attend their own lodges, and included prominent members of the Piedmont nobility. The name was changed to Propaganda Jew following World War II, when the Grand Orient of Italy numbered its lodges. By the 1960s, the lodge was all but inactive, holding few meetings. This original lodge had little to do with the one Licio Gelli established in 1966, 2 years after becoming a Freemason. Freemasonry in Italy had been outlawed by the fascist regime of Benito Mussolini, but it was reborn after the Second World War with American encouragement. Its traditions of free thinking under the Risorgimento transformed into fervent anti-communism. So that's why the Italians are encouraging it, because it's a right-wing organisation, anti-communist. The increasing influence of the left at the end of the 1960s had the Masons of Italy deeply worried. In 1971, Grand Master Lino Salvini of the Grand Orient of Italy, one of Italy's largest Masonic lodges, assigned to Gelli the task of reorganizing the lodge. So, and then it was expelled in 1976. So I know there's lots of stuff about P2 on here, but it's worth looking at as it links through. It's all anti-communist. It's the main link is anti-communism to everything. So there's a list of quite a few members. Silvio Berlusconi is the obvious one, because he went on to be Prime Minister, but there's a long list. Right, so that kind of covers the hour. Just a reminder that Revolution Radio is listener supported. And if you can make a contribution, you can make a one-off donation at revolution.radio, or you can make a monthly donation if you follow the link to Patreon. And if you are interested in following what I'm doing, there's a website for the show, which is freeassociationradioshow.com, where I post things that I'm researching, things that I'm interested in, and links to places that I'm researching. I've started buying newspapers again as well, which is a return to an old behaviour, but I haven't bought newspapers for years. But I've been needing change for my transport to work, so it makes sense to buy a newspaper. So the Times or the Daily Mail are my newspapers of choice at the moment. And I need another drink, so excuse me for 1 second. Okay, we're just about at the end of the show. I'll give you a couple more websites to look at. There are projects I've been building up. I've registered imaginationcreatesreality.live, .live, and I've registered cancercuremastermindgroup.com in the last couple of weeks. So those are two to keep an eye on. There's nothing much there at the moment, but there will be over time. And there's also my Reiki site, which is ReikiMasterInitiation.com. So probably there's going to be music shortly, and I'm going to just let the music come in when it's ready. Thanks for listening. I appreciate people listening to what I'm doing. I appreciate people supporting what I'm doing. There you go, there's some music. So I'll see you next week at the same time, 11 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast.